Put the iPad down.
Hi, my name is Mateo.
My name is Jose Cano.
Ben.
Nico Shepa.
Victor, and this is our Theology 2 Extra Credit 4-point bonus project.
For me, this is what a life of Christ is truly about. Just reading the Bible, going to church, just being a good Samaritan to everyone around you. You know, just being a nice person. But really, that's really hard to do sometimes. And sometimes we have to sin. And, you know, just gotta wank, sometimes you just cuss with your friends, like, just having some fun, like, just get a little weird, you know, like.
Alright. This is why. In our generation, we're inclined to do what's wrong. The things that we find interesting are not really productive. Why do we spend countless hours playing a video game? What we could do is read the Bible. Why?
So we are told that the true child of God will go through periods of trials, difficulties, pain, and suffering in his life. So I wonder if does that make it difficult for us to love Christ because of the difficulties he went through? I mean, we may never know the why until we get to heaven. Regardless of our age, our intellect, our responsibilities, or experience, in God's eyes, we're still just little children, and we all should love him and try to meet with him one day in heaven and just be happy. And when we do fall into various trials and sin, he wants us to come to him and seek his forgiveness so he can love us and we can love him even more once again. I mean, he leads us into his direction He leads us to his direction so we can give our burdens to him and he can make our lives a little easier and we can be happier. But this requires faith. We have to truly trust God and love God and believe in God and everything that he tells us to do. Jesus Christ, his only son, already stepped forward to die for our sins and protect us. He endured all the suffering and pain that the rude people did to him back in those days. You know, suffering him, the agony in the garden, the scourging in the pillar. He has felt the pain of sorrow, rejection, and sin. I mean, not sin, because Christ doesn't sin, but he felt the pain of our sins. So why should we make him feel even more pain? He knows how we're feeling. So he loves and cares for each one of us, so we need to love and care for him back. So the good part about Jesus is that we can always go to him when we need help and comfort, and he'll always forgive us. So it's the life of Christ and what I think.
Okay, so a life of Christ has many difficulties in pursuing prayer and just talking to God, but most people need to understand that God answers all prayers for those who diligently seek him. Many of the times the answer is no or not yet, but you have to remember that you're seeking his will, not your will, and you're seeking it on his time, not your time, and his way and not your way. Only God knows the end from the beginning, so you have to put your trust in God that he knows what you need best. And like most high schoolers have problems with like homework or studying for Mr. Gattis or having like other extracurricular activities like basketball, football, soccer, so you don't always have time for God, but God is always there.
God rules over all things, as we come to know in the book of Job. Though the terrible things which happened to Job falls over onto Satan, whose desire was for Job to curse God and die. In each trial we go through where we have the choice of drawing closer to the Lord in faith, or bitterly turning away to curse God and die. This is our test. Even the sincere Catholic will not escape the pain, heartbreak, sorrow, and distress found in this life. But the Lord promises to help us, promises to make us stronger. He also sees us through all of our pains and troubles. His promise is not to take us out of the bitter storms of life, but to safely lead us through the storms. No matter how bad the situation might be, God is always there for us, and you should always trust in him throughout your whole life. Thank you. That is my view on the life of Christ.
Also, in a life centered around Christ, a typical day would be praying about Mr. Gattis, worshiping Mr. Gattis, in my shrine of Mr. Gattis, with my framed picture of Mr. Gattis, and just hoping that I get an A in Mr. Gattis' class, studying for Mr. Gattis' final, and then maybe a little worshiping God, but mostly Mr. Gattis, Like, that's just my life right there.
God rules overall. God. Why did you not? No, other side.
Does it really matter?
Yes.
Alright, fuck, I'm
Oh
leaving.
my
Hey.
god. No, read it. For me, this is what a life of Christ is truly about.
What the heck? Come on.
What the